Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell and to check out the join membership option.
Alright guys, so welcome to this video, and today we will be dealing with sword styles, so 1 sword style, 2 sword style, and 3 sword style, as Zoro does from the One Piece anime series, as you guys hopefully know. Okay, so in order to get started with this, I thought about creating the sword model inside of Blender before we proceed to the scripting in Roblox Studio. Before we get started, first of all, comment #bosses in the comments so I know who's a part of the boss community, okay? So it's finally time to give you guys some kind of identity. So comment #bosses. Alright. Now let's go. So here in Blender, so you obviously will need Blender in order to do this. So I mean in order to build the sword, to create the sword, okay? So you will need Blender. Now we'll enable this, and as you guys can see, my input is being shown in this left bottom corner. So take a closer look at this, of course. Now, A selects everything and X to delete. I won't be commenting much on Blender, so just take a look at my inputs if you want to do the exact same thing as I'm doing in Blender. So I will start with the handle first. I've created 2 cuts to make this look more rounder. I know that I could have just inserted the circle, but I think that this is too round, in my opinion, so I will stick to this. Right. Okay, so this is my katana. Now, so this is very important. So before exporting, check your face orientation. So you go to this arrow right here and take this face orientation. And then you will see this. So some parts are blue, some parts are red. And we want all of our parts to be blue, okay? In order to do this, you will need to select all of the red parts. So this, and then you can just easily press the and go to wireframe, and then select everything. And once you've selected all of the red parts, then go to Alt and Enter, or press Alt, no, Alt and N, press Alt and N, and then go to Flip. Then untick this again. Okay. You can play around with edge, with the edge split modifier and with shade smooth. So you can play around with these, and will look like this in the end. Alright, now let's export this. Go to export, right front, and then select the path which you will remember, of course, because we want to import it into Roblox Studio after. Okay. Now, back in Roblox Studio, insert a mesh part. Call this katana, or whatever you want to, of course. It's up to you. Then import your sword. Or if you have already made a sword before, then you can of course use it as well. So I've just made a new sword for this tutorial only, and there it is. Now we'll give it a color, the material, and we'll need to make it a lot more smaller, of course, because we're not able to carry this big sword. Okay, so I think that this is alright. We should go on with this, okay? So paste it in replicated storage, and now let's get to the scripting. Alright, now insert local script and do the following. So or you know what, let's do this with a tool. So create a tool called sword, Okay, so create a tool, then select the tool and click on requires handle, so make this untick. Okay, so this should be false. Now open up the local script and write the following. Now create a remote event inside of this local script and call it remote, or call it whatever you want to. Of course, you can. It's actually up to you guys. Now create the script as well, and what we want to do is, once this tool has been equipped, so once it has been equipped, we want the sword to be put inside of this player hand, okay? But I also want this sword to memorize the last used sword style. So let's say that you equip this tool and use the 2 sword style and then unequip it again. Then this tool will memorize and equip the 2 sword style again. So once you've equipped this tool again, then you will have your 2 swords at hand, because that's how you left this tool. So that was my thought about this sword system. Okay, now create this integer value, of course, and call it sword style and put it to 1 by default. Then open up this local script again, and we want to define our remote event right here. And we want to fire server this remote event as well. So once this tool has been equipped, we want the sword to be equipped, which is going to be scripted inside of this script right here, okay? And this script only does its job once this has been fire served. So that's how filtering enabled works. Now, so equipped is our first argument. So I love to use remote events that way, that the first argument is always indicating what the script is going to do. And now the second argument will be the value of this integer value, so in this case 1. So this refers to this, okay? Yeah. Now I will be creating some table. And this table will contain settings for you guys, which you can easily change to yeah, just to play around with this sword system and make it look like your own, you know. So you can like you can use any sword you want to with this table. So let me just explain it to you in a bit. So 1SS stands for 1 sword style. So first sword style will contain game. Now let's say just katana. Okay. Okay, so if we're currently using the one sword style, then our sword is going to be the katana. If we are using the second sword style, then our sword is going to be the katana. And if we're using the third sword style, then our third sword is going to be the katana. So you have to consider it as this. This is our second sword, this is our third sword, and this is our first sword. When using the first sword, so the one sword style, you will be using this. When using two swords, you will be using this. And when you use three swords, then you will use all of these, okay? And let's pass this table as well, so sword style settings. Okay. I will be showing you how to work with these settings later on. So once I've scripted everything, okay? So let's go to sword remote now and define the remote first of all. So script parent remote, okay? This defines the remote, and once this remote has been file servered, then we want to check what the first argument is, because as I've just told you guys, the first argument always indicates what the script is going to do, well, for me at least. So this is how I'll work with remote events. So if value equals equipped, then we check for the sword style, which should be considered when equipping. So the player should have 2 swords equipped, 3 swords, or only 1 sword. Now we will move on with cloning this katana inside of the player's character and equipping it, so welding it to the player's hand. To do this, all you need to do is so I have passed this table, so this is this, okay? And what I'm doing here, or what I'm about to do, is I'm going to loop through this table and to check for this. Okay, so I want to know what this is, because this is supposed to be the name of the weapon, the first weapon, which I'm going to equip as a sword. Okay. Wait, I could actually get rid of this. Okay, so I found another way. Okay, look. Okay, so we're creating 3 variables which will store these values. So these are the names of our weapons which we will equip. Okay, so we look through the table, and if we have found our entry, so let's say we want the first sword style to be like equipped. I don't know how to call it, but let's say equipped. Then we'll be at this entry. Okay, so we want to know what's inside of this. So we check if our value 1 is our value 2 is 1. If that's the case, then no, wait. Yeah. Oh wait. Oh, okay. So that was actually correct. So Sn equals V. Else I actually have to check for these again, so I thought that I would have had fixed this, but that's not the case. Okay. You know what? This is actually a little complicated, and let's just use this. So this is very easy. So sword style settings. No, let's call this swords. All right. So we're looping through this swords table. Where we actually value 3, 1, value 3, 2, value 3, 3. Okay, so what we're basically doing here is we're defining all of these variables. So these are variables, even though they're not written like this. So I could have written them like this as well. But I've written them in only one line, and they're like receiving these entries, these table entries right here. So this says katana, this says katana, and this says katana, but let's say that this does not contain katana. Let's say that this contains a cutlass, for example. Okay, so imagine that this text is not katana, not katana, but cutlass. Okay, then this would be katana, this would be cutlass, because this is not katana anymore, and this would be katana again. Okay, so this is how this table works, and so we are defining them as I've just said. And so if value 2, so our value 2 is the sword style we want our player to have. So let's say sword style 1, and if that's the case, then we go to our replicated storage and try to find the desired sword. So these are our swords we will use for this sword system. So our first sword, so this is our first sword, this is our second sword, and this is our third sword. Okay, and we're looking instead of the replicated storage. So we're looking for the first sword instead of this replicated storage right here, and if it has been found, let's not call this clone, let's call this S, and the clone is S clone. Clone parent, let's say character, and let's put this sword inside of the character. Also make sure that the sword is unanchored, and well, if this is true or not is actually up to you, so decide which fits to your game. Okay, so we're cloning this sword, and then we're creating a weld, and we weld the sword onto our right hand, so it stays there and does not fall onto the base plate. Let's see if this has worked somehow. Okay, fine first. Guys, I actually have no idea what is wrong with me today, but I don't feel that well. Yeah, so there we go. The sword has been attached to our right hand. We just have to set its position correctly, but this should be easy as well. So let's see. C-frame new. Let's put this to 0 at first, and C-frame angled. So we want to play around with this first. So what can I change? Map red. So this is this sets 182 degrees. Degrees is easier for me to use. Let's see how this looks like first of all. Yeah, that's great. Now let's change this to 90. Okay, let's change this to minus 90 degrees, and this should work now. Okay. Well, 90 was alright, I guess. And let's put this to 90 as well. Okay. Oh. We have to put this to minus 90. Hopefully. Let's put this to 0. So as you guys can see, I'm just playing around right now, and I'm just looking for the C-frame angles. I'm very sorry that this is taking too long. Wait. Why is this so hard to achieve. Let me revert everything. So okay, so the blade is facing this way. Now let me put this to 90. Now what happens when I put this to 90? Okay, so now we need to turn this blade down, okay? Why isn't this working? Okay, so we are very close. So for some reason, the Y and the Z axis have like changed. So I'm very used to edit this Y axis and to make the sword like turn downside, but in this case I had to play around with this axis in order to do so, and I'm not used to it, you know? I'm very sorry that this has took so long, but it is very necessary. Finally, guys, finally. We finally managed to do this. Ah, okay. Now let's do the same for value 2 and value 3. So if sword style 2 should be equipped, then S1, now S2. And I know, guys, there are better methods to do this, but let's keep it easy, you know? Many of you came here to see a video which actually features this topic and not features methods which are like more advanced and can be very confusing for beginners, you know? And my videos are often watched by beginners. And that's the reason for me not to do very complicated stuff. So what this does is it attaches the sword to the player's right hand. Okay, once sword style 1 is like is equipped. Okay, let's call this equipped. So if sword style 1 is equipped, then the clone sword, so the katana, will be equipped to the will be welded onto the player's right hand, so it will get attached. Okay, and if the sword style 2 should be equipped, then it will clone both swords. Okay, so first sword is our katana and the second sword is our katana as well, but we will be changing this in a minute once I'm done with all of these things. Okay, I want to show you guys how to play around with this table in order to change the swords you're equipping. Now, sword style 2 should be equipped, both swords are being cloned, and the first sword, of course, gets attached to the player's right hand, and the second sword gets attached to the player's left hand. Let's check this out. And yeah, of course, sword style 1 was equipped, and that's the reason why this did not work. But before we actually test out the sword style 2 thing, let's do some things first. Create a folder inside of the player's character, so this creates a folder inside of the character. Let's call this swords. Okay, and this folder holds all of these swords which were formerly stored into the player's character, into the player's direct character, so it was directly a child of this character, but now it is a child of this folder. And this is just for us to make things a lot easier, so we are like able to just delete the folder and boom, all these words are gone. So that's the reason behind this. Otherwise I would have had to loop through the character and check for every child to be the katana we are looking for. Now, okay, before I quit this, I'm gonna be changing my sword style manually, so I put this to 2, and there we go. Dual katanas, as you guys can see, so sword style 2. So the blades are a bit short, but it is just how it is. Now, if you want to change it, then go ahead, change it, but I will be leaving as it is. Outlet value 2 is 3, so 3 sword style now. Yeah, so sword 2, let's clone this, let's call it sword 3. And of course, check for sword 3. So what we're actually doing with this check is we're checking whether the desired sword could be found inside of the replicated storage. So it is very important that if you enter a sword name into this table, then make sure it is directly stored inside of the replicated storage. not inside of a folder, but directly a child of the replicated storage. So this is very important. Otherwise, all these things will cause errors and they will not work. So, sword style 3 is a bit different because the user is supposed to hold the sword with his or her teeth, you know, so it is attached to the head in this case. And what we want to change is, of course, change this. So the part 1 is the part which the sword is attaching to, and the part 1 is the part which is attaching to something, so our sword in this case. And we want to attach to the head, okay? Now let me revert all of this because I would just want to see how this will look by default. But we will probably need to change something because I don't think that it will fit perfectly by default. And there we go. So as I've just said, we of course need to edit this. Okay, cframe.new. Let's add something random right here, just to see what it looks like. Totally forgot to manually change the sword style. Yeah, so put this to 3, and what is happening? Oh, I did not do C-frame angles, but did C-frame new instead. Yeah, so let's put this to minus. Maybe this will change things up. And no, it did not change anything. Let's put this to minus. Perfect, guys, perfect. Forgot to change the sword style value again. And this is actually a big problem, so if this happens again, then I will just script it right away and stop putting the value in manually. Okay, there we go, guys. So I will now, so let's cut this. Let's just continue with how to change the sword style. So how do you go from 1 sword to 2 sword and to 3 swords? Okay, let's just continue with this. So define the user import service first of all, and get service. User import service, of course, then create some kind of cooldown bool value, so enabled in this case, and let's get right into this. So user input service, input began, connect, function, input, GP. So if not GP and input key code keycode F. Put this inside of these as well, and enabled false. So if an input has been done, and if this input was not while using a GUI or while using other components of a game, and the input was the F key, so if the F key has been pressed and the cooldown value is set to false, therefore is not being used, then we turn this to true, so the check here fails and this key cannot be spammed for a certain amount of time, which you can define down here. So I'll put this to 2.5 seconds, and yeah, after 0.5 seconds we will turn this back to false again, so the player can proceed this check. Okay, remote fire server. We can just copy these and can do the following: if script parent sword style value is below 3, no, below 2. Wait, let's just do 1 or 2. Then 1, else set back to 1. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're actually increasing this value, so this value is indicating which sword style is equipped right now. So the first sword style, sword style 1, so the player holding 1 sword is equipped by default, okay? And this is being increased every time the F key has been pressed and every time all the other requirements are met in this check. And we of course only want the player to be able to wield 1 sword or 2 swords or 3 swords, and we do not want to we do not want this value to be greater than 3, because we only want to feature the everything till the 3 sword style. Therefore we're checking 1 and 2 is the current sword style. If that's the case, then we can still increase it by 1, because if we increase it by 1 we will receive a 3 here, okay? But else is like if nothing of this is the case, then this is the case, okay? And this is the case when the sword style value right here is greater than 1 or 2, or not 1 or 2, and is 3 in most cases, or in every case. There's another thing we want to do. We want to check for a folder. So okay, so what I'm doing here is we are like creating this folder right here, which contains all of these words, which are valid to the player's hand, head, whatsoever. And imagine that the player is joining the game and then equips the sword tool. Then this remote event will be fire servered, which makes the player hold 1 sword or 2 swords or whatsoever, but the player is holding a sword, and that's what matters. So the player is like holding a weapon, then presses F, okay, to increase the sword style. Then the remote event is being fire servered again, but is not clearing up the former swords, so they are still there, and they are getting overlapped by the newer ones. Okay, so that's the reason why we need to delete the old swords first in order to create new ones. And this is what I'm doing right here. So as you guys know, all of these swords are stored in a folder called swords in character, inside of the character. And we are looking for this folder right here and destroying it after, just to create a new folder called swords, which stores all of the other swords again. Okay, and of course that folder will be deleted again once this remote event fires servers with the intention to equip the sword. Yeah, so that's the idea behind of that. Now, before we test this out, I want to create another feature. So let's also create script parent unequipped. Yeah. So we want the player to be free from those swords once the player has unequipped the tool. So if the tool has been unequipped, all of these swords should be deleted. So this is the idea behind this. And in order to do this, we can just easily fire server again. This time we call this unequipped, and else of value unequipped. Then so if the remote event has been fire servered with the intention to unequip, then we can just delete this folder, because once this folder has been deleted, all of these swords are gone. Okay, and now if I test this out, this should work perfectly fine. So I should be able to equip my swords, to change my sword style, and to lose my swords after I've unequipped this tool. Let's see. Okay, this works. Now I press F. Okay, this works as well. Now I press F again. Okay, I still have to edit the position, but it still works. Okay, and that's important. And boom, works again. Now, and as you guys can see, it memorizes the last used sword style and plays it again, or equips it again. And that's important as well. Okay, now the last thing what I want to do is I want to position this correctly, of course. And I see that we're currently at, whoa, almost an hour. And I don't think that I'm going to be featuring other stuff in this video now, but let's talk about this later. So oh, okay. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, almost there, guys. Okay, there we go. So that's it with this tutorial, guys. If you have enjoyed it, then please leave a like, subscribe, share this video to all of your friends, and check out the join member option next to the subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos, okay? And if you want another part of this series, so of this sword style video series, then as I've just said, just like, comment, and do all of the other stuff, and I will feature more stuff in the next episode of this series, okay? Take care, guys, and see you in the next video, of course.